Welcome to Tamworth, New South Wales, Australia. A place so serene on the outside, you could paint it as the idyllic backdrop for a movie about small-town charm. But dig beneath the surface and you might uncover truths so jaw-dropping, so unbelievable, you'll question everything you thought you knew about governance, justice, and ethics in Australia. This, my friends, is not hyperbole. This is the insidious reality we face today. Now, ask yourself, what if those entrusted with the public's safety, those who are supposed to efficiently manage our shared public assets, were the very ones benefiting from behind-the-scenes corruption? Let's dive into one particularly chilling case. Mayor Colin Murray. Remember that name, because his tenure as mayor of Tamworth reveals a story far more sinister than any scriptwriter could ever imagine. In August 2017, Murray traveled to China on what seemed to be a diplomatic mission. But this wasn't just a handshake and smiles photo op event. It involved criminal activities, crimes that included tortuous interference, anti-competitive trade practices, and circumventions that occurred on Chinese soil. These acts aimed at deliberately destabilizing business acquisitions for personal gain. Why does this matter? Because the impacts weren't just felt overseas. They rippled back into the lives of Australians like you and me, robbing communities of opportunities and prosperity. And let's not forget Paul Bennett, General Manager at the Tamworth Regional Council. His role: sending correspondence to investors and other key players, orchestrating a sinister game from behind the curtain. Contracts for major community assets were cancelled, only to pave the way for these very assets to be handed out free of charge, undermining public trust. Let me paint this picture for you. With no fewer than $3 million on the table, money that could have been reinvested into the regional infrastructure, these gifts, without accountability, highlight a cartel level of criminal dysfunction in local governance. These were not accidents, but cold, calculated moves designed to enrich a select few. If you think that's where the rabbit hole ends, buckle up. Mayor Colin Murray is now somewhat untouchable as chairman of Infrastructure Australia, securing political immunity thanks to strategic friends like Barnaby Joyce and Kevin Anderson. It's alleged that these public figures, alongside others, forced compliant public servants to become unwilling accomplices in their nefarious plans. Case in point, the fraudulent manipulation of surface water licenses valued at a staggering $210 million. And let's not overlook the aspect of international money laundering that funneled dirty money into domestic and foreign bank accounts tied to high-ranking officials. Meanwhile, as headlines tout economic growth in regions like Tamworth, what they fail to reveal is the underground siphoning of public coffers. They barter away national safety and public assets for unconscionable contracts. And this reaches national significance. Tamworth's Dungowan Dam and its potential for renewable energy criminally sabotaged. Imagine losing out on clean, cost-efficient 500-megawatt electricity, a resource stolen from the future generations, all for the personal enrichment of a select cartel operating under the guise of governance. But this example isn't an outlier. It's endemic. Let's pivot to the bigger implications. Royal commissions, investigations by Austrac, and alarming discoveries that infrastructure billed as complete either doesn't exist or exists in defective states. Billions in economic losses, and yet no perpetrators held accountable. Sounds awfully familiar in politics, doesn't it? The human cost of corruption transcends money. It robs citizens of well-being, job security, and the promise of future prosperity. Corruption leads to severe consequences, financial crimes, insider trading, and antitrust violations spanning across industries. Collusion that shakes hands with nations like the USA, China, Saudi Arabia, forging partnerships not just for economic gain, but also for human exploitation, enslavement, forced police informants, even prostitution rings. Every layer peeled back reveals another level of rot. And here's the crux of it. An entire judicial system complicit beyond redemption. Courts that should uphold rights have instead become bastions of criminal enterprise, brimming with magistrates, solicitors, police, and government agents who are not protectors, but predators. Instead of fostering justice, these entities engage in organized schemes to defraud and target the very public they serve. Individuals in Tamworth face unimaginable horrors: kidnappings, illegal fines, legal costs extorted by fabricated cases, and orchestrated acts of terror against ordinary citizens. In one particularly egregious series of events, a well-intentioned businessman who invested in Tamworth for community growth became a scapegoat overnight. He dedicated millions towards revitalizing the local economy, only for his success to be sabotaged by corrupt employees in collusion with council officials. His businesses crushed, reputations smeared, and safety stripped, highlighting a system rigged against those who dare challenge the status quo. Do you think this isn't your concern? Think again. The cumulative loss of intellectual talent, infrastructure, credibility, and economic potential is irreparable. Communities that could thrive have instead been plunged into a cycle of poverty, drug addiction, and hopelessness. Schools crumble, health systems fail. The public system is designed not for self-sustainment, but prolonged desperation, because desperation feeds these systems of exploitation. And here's the kicker. This isn't a crime in the back alleys or seedy underworld. It's happening in plain sight, with perpetrators wearing suits instead of masks, conducting their illicit operation from courtrooms and council chambers. When the justice system, the very thing meant to protect society, becomes an accomplice to systemic harm, how do you reconcile that? If this all feels like too much, know this: you are not alone. Out of the shadows comes light. Brave individuals, whistleblowers, and communities refusing to stay silent are piecing together connections, presenting evidence, and demanding accountability. Movements are growing, and while change won't come easy or fast, the scales of power are shifting. So will you let this story remain buried in the sands of ignorance? Or will you help share the reality? Because exposing Tamworth is no longer just about a single town. It's now symbolic of the fight to expose truths hidden behind every small town facade. This story is an invitation to pull back the curtain on corruption and to become part of the collective voice demanding better in Tamworth, throughout Australia, and beyond. The fight is just beginning. The question is, which side of history will you stand on?